All right, welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. This time, we are going to be tackling something that I think can be pretty stressful for just about anybody, um, even seasoned professionals,
Hmm.
and that is job interviews.
Hmm.
But, we're here to help you kind of break it down so you can nail it.
Absolutely.
We've got a ton of different sources that we've been going over, articles, research, even some insider tips from some folks that are in the know. And we're going to be breaking down the whole process, really, like from how to make that first impression
Yeah.
all the way to, what questions you should be asking when it's your turn.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to get caught up in wanting to get the job offer and kind of forgetting that it's a two-way street. So
Right.
this deep dive is going to help you figure out, is this job right for me, not just am I right for this job?
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so our sources all kind of break down the interview process
Yeah.
into three main stages. You've got the introduction, you've got the Q&A, of course, and then you've got the closing.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty, standard.
Right.
But I'm willing to bet there's more to each of those stages than maybe meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like a three-act play.
Okay, yeah.
Each one is, has its own purpose. And that first one, that introduction, I mean, that handshake, that smile, the way you carry yourself,
Yeah.
all of that sets the tone for the rest of the interview.
It's true. First impressions are huge.
Huge, yeah.
I mean, it's like you're setting the stage for your main performance.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, Act 2, Q&A. This is where you really get to shine. Showcase your experience, your skills, but, it's not just listing things off of your resume.
Right.
It needs to be a conversation. Highlight how you can solve their problems.
Right. So it's about how your skills and experience apply to what they need.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the closing, Act 3, this is your chance to leave them with a lasting impression.
Yeah.
But also for you to make sure you have all the information you need to make a good decision.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. It's like we can't forget that we're interviewing them
Yes.
just as much as they're interviewing us.
100%.
Yeah.
You should be walking out of there thinking, is this a company? Is this a place where I can learn, where I can grow, where I can be challenged but in a positive way?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get practical here. One of our sources talked about prepping for those interview questions.
Yep.
And it goes way beyond, they said, just looking at the company website, which I think is what a lot of people do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You want to go deeper. Look at their socials,
Uh-huh.
read some recent news articles about them, even check out, employee reviews on Glassdoor, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's going to give you a much better picture of their culture, their values, and really what it's actually like to work there. Right.
So it's almost like, it's like detective work in a way. You're piecing together clues.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, to see if this is the right fit for you. And of course, I mean, the job description itself.
Yes.
Don't just, read it, but dissect it.
Absolutely.
Really take a look at what are those key skills and experiences that they're emphasizing.
Yeah.
And how can you show them that you have those?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where that STAR method comes in.
Yes, the STAR method.
Now, I think a lot of people have maybe heard of this,
Right.
but it's so powerful. I think it's worth revisiting.
Absolutely.
Can you give us kind of a quick rundown of what that is?
Yeah, so it's basically a framework that you can use to structure your answer, especially to those behavioral interview questions. Like, tell me about a time you failed.
Right.
And it's real simple. You start with the situation, then you go on to the task that you were facing,
Mm-hmm.
the action that you took to address that situation and task, and finally, the result.
Yeah, it's such a good way to keep your answers concise
Yes.
and impactful,
Yes.
especially when, we're all nervous in these situations and our minds can go blank.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and it helps you avoid rambling, stay focused.
Right.
Keep it really on what your accomplishments were. And one of our sources actually suggested using it even for those tell me about yourself questions.
Oh, interesting. So instead of just going through your resume chronologically,
Exactly.
you would use the STAR method to hit on some key accomplishments, maybe skills that are relevant.
Exactly. It's a way to stand out,
Yeah.
and to make a strong first impression.
I like it.
Yeah.
But one thing that the source cautions against is memorizing your answers.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
You don't want to sound like a robot.
Right.
The goal is to be authentic.
Yeah.
Be conversational, not to just, recite a script. Practice is key, of course, but it's more about understanding those principles behind the STAR method.
Right. So it's a framework for your thoughts,
Exactly.
not a canned response,
Yeah.
really, to any situation.
And honestly, if you get a question that throws you off,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to just pause for a second and collect your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You can even ask for clarification, if you need to.
Right.
Shows that you're thoughtful.
Yeah, it shows that you're engaged.
Exactly. You want to give a good answer.
It's much better to just pause for a moment than just blurt something out that you regret.
Yeah, totally.
Now, our sources also talk about managing those pre-interview jitters,
Oh, yeah.
which I think we can all relate to.
Of course, yeah.
And a lot of them recommend mindfulness techniques. Have you ever tried those?
Mindfulness. Oh, yeah, for sure. I used to get like really bad pre-interview anxiety.
Yeah.
But bringing in those mindfulness techniques, it's been huge. Even something as simple as, taking some deep breaths before you walk in.
Yeah.
It can make such a difference.
Like hitting the reset button on your nervous system.
Exactly. It helps you, stay present, stay focused on the moment instead of getting caught up in those anxious thoughts.
Right, right. So we talked about, prepping for their questions.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the questions we should be asking?
Right.
One of our sources really emphasized this.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me how many people just don't do this.
Right.
Asking thoughtful questions, it not only gives you information, to make a decision,
Right.
but it also shows the interviewer that you're curious, that you're engaged, you're taking it seriously.
It shows that you're not just looking for a job, you're looking for the right job.
Exactly. It helps you figure out if your values align, if you're excited about their goals, like,
Yeah.
can you really see yourself, thriving in that environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So what kinds of questions should we be asking? Because I think a lot of people get stuck there.
Think about it this way. Like, what do you need to know to decide if this is the right fit for you?
Right.
You could ask about their expectations for the role, what their long-term goals are for the company, what opportunities there are for growth and development, even, what the team dynamics are like.
Yeah, I've always liked asking about, a recent challenge the team faced
Yeah.
and how they overcame it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Gives you a sense of, their problem-solving style
Yes.
and how they work together.
That's great. And don't be afraid to get specific, too. If you're passionate about a certain area of the work, ask how you'd be involved.
Right.
You know.
It's about showing them that you've done your homework and that you're genuinely interested.
Right. And remember, this is also your chance to kind of assess them.
Yeah.
Are they good communicators?
Right.
Do they seem passionate about the work?
Right.
Do you feel like you connect with them? Like, trust your gut.
So it's not just about getting the answers. It's also about the feeling that you get.
Yes, exactly. Now, one of our sources actually gives some interesting tips on tailoring your questions to the company culture.
Okay.
For example, if it's like a really data-driven company,
Yeah.
you could ask about how they use data in decision-making, or what metrics are important to them.
That makes sense. Shows that you understand their values.
Exactly. And if it's, a more creative company or a really collaborative environment, you could ask about, how they brainstorm, how they encourage innovation.
Right. So it's about demonstrating that you've taken the time to understand their approach.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's worth saying, the questions that you ask, they can be just as important as the answers that you give.
That's a great point.
They really show your thought process.
Yeah.
What's important to you.
Okay. So we've covered a lot here. We've talked about prepping for questions, crafting our own insightful questions, even dealing with those, pre-interview jitters. But one thing we haven't talked about yet is how to actually present ourselves.
You mean like body language and all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And our sources actually had some really interesting things to say about this. And I think it's something that can be easily overlooked.
Yeah, it's so easy to be thinking about, oh gosh, what am I going to say?
Right.
That we forget how we're actually presenting ourselves.
Yeah, nonverbal communication is so important. I mean, especially in those first few minutes of an interview.
For sure. One of our sources said that something like 70% of the message we convey is through our body language.
It's a lot, yeah. Things like, eye contact, having a good firm handshake,
Yeah.
sitting up straight, even smiling, like all of that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's about, projecting confidence,
Yeah.
showing them that you're engaged, that you're interested in the conversation.
For sure. You want to come across as approachable, enthusiastic,
Yeah.
even if you're feeling nervous, which
Right.
you probably are, let's be honest. Yeah, oh, absolutely. One of our sources actually said to practice your interview face in the mirror.
It sounds silly,
Right.
but it can be really helpful.
Yeah.
It helps you see what you're projecting, and you can make adjustments if you need to.
Right. Like if you tend to, frown when you concentrate or something,
Yeah,
you can practice relaxing your face, smiling naturally.
totally. And speaking of those nerves, one thing I found helpful is to try to almost reframe those jitters as excitement.
Oh, interesting. How do you do that?
Well, instead of thinking to yourself, "Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous,"
Yeah.
tell yourself, "I'm excited about this opportunity."
Yeah.
It's a really subtle shift, but it can make a huge difference.
It's like channeling that nervous energy into something positive.
Exactly, yeah. And remember the interviewer, they want you to succeed. They took time out of their day to meet with you, so they're already invested.
That's true. Yeah. It's easy to forget that they're kind of on our side in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you do make a mistake, or if you stumble over your words, don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Everyone gets nervous.
Yeah.
And a good interviewer will understand that.
Absolutely. Just acknowledge it, laugh it off.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It's about recovering gracefully and showing them that you can handle a little bit of pressure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about preparation. We talked about the STAR method, asking insightful questions, even nonverbal communication.
Mhm.
But before we wrap up, I do want to touch on something that one of our sources called owning your narrative.
Oh, I love that.
What exactly does that mean?
I think it means being yourself, letting your personality shine through. Don't try to be someone you're not or try to fit into some idea of what you think they want.
Right, because they're hiring a person,
Yeah.
not a robot.
They want someone who's going to bring their own, unique skills and perspectives.
Absolutely. So how can we do that?
Think about what makes you, you. What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
What are your values? What are some stories that you can tell, some experiences you've had that really highlight who you are?
And find a way to weave that into your answers.
Yes.
Even if it's just like a small detail, a personal touch.
Make that connection with the interviewer
Yeah.
on a human level, not just a professional one.
That's great. So as we wrap up our deep dive here, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody heading into a job interview?
I would say go in there with confidence, knowing that you have something valuable to offer,
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared,
Yeah.
be authentic, and most importantly, be yourself.
I love it. And remember, every interview,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the outcome, it's a learning experience.
Absolutely.
So take the time to reflect, what went well? What could you maybe do a little differently next time? And use that to, grow.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into mastering the job interview. We hope you found it insightful.
Yeah. Best of luck out there. We're rooting for you.